Jai Shri Krishna to all. Welcome to Path to Anandam Gita series. Freedom from pains and miseries to happy, healthy, and peaceful life. Based upon 108 mantras to awaken your soul. And my question and guidance. And today, the session is series 58 of our program. And today's subject is power of daily spiritual practices. And pranam to Hariharji Maharaj. Thank you very much for coming in our life, for your blessing to all of us and guiding to found the path to Anandam. I'm Satya Kalra, your host and founder of Path to Anandam with Guruji's guidance. And his guidance to write the book. And with his blessings, all these books became #1 bestseller on Amazon with the CDs and spreading the message of Bhagavad Gita globally. Through Zoom, through personal counseling, as well as going to the conferences, different institutions. So thank you, Lord Krishna, for bringing Guruji in our life. And thank you, Guruji, again. Thank you. And today's series, the power of spiritual practices. But then the question comes, how to do daily spiritual practices, how to maintain them. So we will be covering these subjects. What is spirituality? What are spiritual practices? How to practice spirituality and spiritual practices with every activity. How to stay committed to daily spiritual practices. And what are the benefits? How can we practice our homework and then our sankalpa? I do practice spirituality with meditation and question and answers. So we start with our prayers, seeking for the guidance humbly and surrendering to Lord Krishna as Arjuna did. When he became the zero, he lost his heroism, but he asked for his advice, Lord Krishna's advice, and he turned his vishad, his worries, his confusion, turned into prasad. He got the wisdom. His confusion was dissolved after going through the blissful journey for self-purification and transformation. He uplifted himself. And he said, Karishe vachanam tav. I do as you advise. Because he experienced, he learned that he's not just a Kshatriya, but his responsibilities are more than that. So let's all pray together to Lord Krishna. So remove our confusions, our worries, and help us to surrender to him very humbly. Karpanya dosho pahate swabhava paschami tvam dharma samud chetaha yachryasyanichitam bruhi tanme Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanyam. Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanyam. Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanyam. My heart is overpowered by the weakness of pity. I have lost all my composure, and my mind is confused about my duty, my dharma, what to do, what not to do. I am requesting you to tell me what is definitely good for me, not what I am asking, I am begging to you, but what is definitely good for me. I am your disciple. I surrender to you. Please instruct me. And then Lord Krishna blessed him with the wisdom, the infinite wisdom, which we are benefiting from it, called Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Gita is a spiritual instruction manual, step-by-step spiritual practical guide for our daily life. Gita is Anandamai and Atma Darshani. And today we are talking about more about the Atma Darshani, how we can reach to that Atma experience, do the darshan who we are, get the vision who we are. So it teaches us how to live righteously and skillfully to reach to experiencing my own Atma Darshan. It teaches us how to convert every activity into sadhana, a spiritual practice, and do self-purification, transformation, and attain eternal happiness, blissful state, peace, Anandam, while living in the material world, in this sansar, and realize our true nature, that we are Satchit Anand. So experience the God realization, the self-realization. And these are all the messages from Swami Hariharji Maharaj, which I put it together in the form of teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So what is spirituality? This was one of the questions which we embarked upon it previously as well, but we are going to speak about further because many questions have come to me about this subject. Therefore, I put this presentation together again, focusing on the spiritual practices. But prior to that, we have to know what is spirit, what is spirituality. So soul to soul connection, to supreme soul, to self-realization, doing Atma Darshan. All these activities are called spirituality. So spirituality is living and honoring human values, or those attributes and qualities which are the very heart of humanity. These values include integrity, compassion, cooperation, responsibilities, and deep care for all. In other words, spirituality is a lifestyle which we have to practice every moment in our life, experience it. Here you can see this image. Living in this world, here is the Maya, here is the world. But again, staying in own composure with the ultimate goal of connecting to supreme power. So any and every activity which we will go into that will be the spiritual practice, which connects us to the supreme power. So the study of soul, the spirit, is known as spirituality. And as you know, today, this is a buzzword. This is a, I would say, glamorous word. Everything is known as spirituality, even though there are any meditations and there are so many organizations, spiritual lounge, spiritual clubs, spiritual gatherings, spiritual groups. It becomes a really popular word. So spirituality is a brave search. Listen to it, brave search for the truth about our existence, fearlessly peering into the mysterious nature of life. This is Elizabeth Taylor said. So in other words, spirituality is the path to Anandam. So let's not get confused with the religion and spirituality. That's another question comes. What is the difference between religion and spirituality? Spirituality is the soul. It connects you with the soul. It connects you with the heart as a spirit. Spirit and soul are interchangeable words. So that's why it says spirit, soul. And religion are man-made. And that's where there is comes my religion is better than your religion. That's where the ego part comes. But in spirituality, there is no ego, because it's a self-focus, self-internalization, and self-awareness, self-purification, transformation, and self-realization. Who I am Satchit Ananda. While in religion, there are practices, worships, places, temples, cults. There are strict rules. There are some religions that have so strict rules. You must read only their religious book. You must follow every step, even though it might be hurting other people, but you have to follow their religion. While spirituality totally depends on the self-knowledge, wisdom, union with ourselves. खुद से खुदा को मिलाना, अपने आप से परमात्मा को मिलाना. That's what the spirituality is. And one can practice anywhere. There is no form, there is no place. You can do it right now. You can do it in jungle. You can do it in the car. You can do it every moment of your life. While religion is community oriented, very highly organized, very exclusive, means you have to belong to that religion in order to practice that. In many communities, many religions. However, in spirituality, you have a full freedom. You don't have to belong to any cult, any religion. Religion is based on the rituals, like we do many activities. Although in spirituality, we have the practices, but they are not the rituals, they are the practices. Sometimes people change the word rituals, it's spiritual, it's rituals, but actually those are the practices. And they are totally inclusive. Vasudev Kutumbakam. Everybody belongs to that, because everybody has a potential to be spiritual. That's what Swami Vivekananda said. So religion are based on fear and faith-based. You have to have a faith in that religion. And it says, be fear. I am fearful of God. In spirituality, it says, I am free. God is the liberation. It's another name of God. There is no fear. It's all freedom. And religion goes only up to heaven, death and heaven. So all the ritual practices, people say Swarg milega. But in order to get the Swarg, you have to die. There's a very good joke, my friend used to say it, that people say it all the time. I want to go to heaven. I want to go to Swarga. I want to go to experience the heaven. I want to live in heaven. But everybody is afraid of death. So they don't want to die, but they want to go to heaven. Because their perception of heaven is after death. While in spirituality, you can live every moment in Anandam, and that is your inner happiness. Your inner blissfulness is your heaven. And the yoga in the ritual practices are yoga, pranayam, prayers, meditations, any and every activity that takes us to liberation is a spiritual practice. In religion, it's a theoretical, belief-based divinity. However, in spirituality, it's a direct experience. You can experience the ultimate peace within. Where religion is duality, God and I are different. And we worship God in temples, in mandirs. We have a special place of murtis, etc. It is called Murti Puja. Sakar Roop, where in spirituality, there's only oneness. God is within us. So one does not have to go to temples, though I recommend to go to temples because the vibrations, I feel the oneness over there. As soon as you land there, you feel from your feet, the energy is coming from the earth over there, from the ground. You also feel the energy is flowing from your head and the surrounding. So going to spiritual places, pilgrimages, is very useful for the spiritual growth. However, in religion, those are considered to be the solely activities. And they don't experience that much or the vibration, because we are made with vibration, with energy, but for them, energy concept is foreign to them. And that's where Shri says, religion keeps society divided because it's a duality. It is based on the rituals, it's based on it's a man-made. So it's the ego. Where spirituality unites us, it brings us together. Like yoga brings us together, meditation brings us together, all those practices. So spirituality speaks from the soul. Where religion speaks from the mind. Religion is based on fear. Spirituality is based on freedom. So set yourself free. That's the ultimate goal of spirituality means experience Sat Chit Anand. So then how to become spiritual? Divine. And then Lord Krishna guides Arjuna. He gives him 3 advices, which you all have experienced, learned, and we spoke many times. Very first advice Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, because he was feeling very limited. And he says, no, go beyond your limitations. You are not just the body. You are Atma. To experience it and go beyond your aptitude, your tamasic behavior at that time, who he was, or the rasic behavior, I am Arjuna, I am with attachments. He says, no, go beyond it. Focus what is your purpose of life is. And then he tells him, Yogam tishto tishto bharata. Arjun, through this divine war, Dharm Kshetre, not just the Kurukshetre, but Dharm Kshetre, embark on the war and free yourself from this bondage of attachment and ego that I am the one who is conducting or who is participating in this war and my family members. No, don't worry about them. Go beyond that. Just get involved with your responsibilities, fulfill your responsibilities, follow your dharma. And then he tells him, which we learned from the previous chapter, Yog Yukta Bhav Arjuna. Arjuna, you practice your yoga, union with God. How? Do the seva. Do all the work for others. Don't put your self-interest. And that's where he tells him, Karmanya vadika raste ma phaleshu kadachan. Ma karma phal hetu bhurma. Sango astu karmani. Get involved with your karma yoga. Make sure you have a love and compassion for everybody. So you are not embarking in the war and killing people, but you are performing your duty. So keep a love and compassion because you are conducting this war, in this war, participating for the Sarva Bhutite Rata, for the benefit of the whole society. You can see the God in all. And do it with the bhava, with the aptitude, with the attitude. I am not the doer. Divine power is the doer. And live in the God's consciousness with love and compassion. Develop the divine qualities. Go beyond ahimsa, adveshta. Get the satisfaction, peace. And then he again tells him to do the self-purification and self-transformation through practice of spiritual practices. So ultimately, you will experience that you are not just a human body. You are God, which is called, we are not the human beings which want to experience spirituality, Brahman, but we are Brahman. We are the spiritual being who are going through the human experiences. So through all this, through these 7 steps, which we have spoken and we will be further speaking about it in a summary in next session or next page. But ultimately, here is the union with God. Self-realization. So, spiritual practices, summarizing it here. Spiritual practices are sacrifices, which is called in rituals, yajnas. But in the spiritual world, we call it spiritual practices, can be performed in many different ways. Example, worship, offering, listening, self-control. It is all given in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 8. We have studied this many, many times in many different verses. And it says, I have been a seeker and I am, but I reading the books. I stopped reading the books and the stars. I started listening to my inner teachings of my soul. It does not mean we don't read Bhagavad Gita. We don't read do not read the other spiritual books. Whatever activity brings us close to the supreme power, experience our inner being, that is a spiritual practice. And how to attain it? Set the goal of the life to attain unity with God, with self-discipline. That chapter 6, self-discipline and dhyan yoga, and previously karma yoga. We are on the bhakti yoga, through bhakti yoga. selfless service with love and compassion. Add the love and compassion, which is called Bhakti Yoga, and with Gyan Yoga, with spiritual practices, all the practices which belong here, also called sadhana, and develop the divine qualities. So it says spiritual practices are prerequisites for removing ignorance and doing the self-purification. By doing that, we transform ourselves and finally realize, experience who I am, my true nature. I am Sat Chit Anand. So different practices are needed. Why? Because we have 3 different conscious levels. Conscious level of mind, which is a present one, which is right now we are speaking, we are talking, this is a conscious level. But we have a lot of information stored in our mind, which is called subconscious level. And then the supreme conscious level, which is the supreme mind, which is called the supreme conscious mind, almighty. And in Gita has already explained this, the relationship of body, mind, senses. Mind is in the middle, which is used for the practicing and cleansing our mind, removing our subconscious information, deleting it through spiritual practices. So substituting all the old garbage with the new information, like deleting from our lab, our system, our computer of our mind. Mind is nothing but a storage, just like a disk on the computer, which stores all the data. We have so much data. We need to transform, remove that by through the body, living in awareness, practice goodness, where which says about the monkeys, see good, think good, all these which we have discussed about it, and listen, hear good, do good. And then from the subconscious mind, these are the different spiritual practices like Om Mantra, Pranayam, meditation, and many other activities like healing the koshas, energizing and balancing the chakras, affirmations and prayers. That's why we do it in our every session. And then we go into samadhi. And that's where this yoga, meditation, pranayam, all this is done to finally reach to the samadhi stage and experience. Samadhi means samta of mind, balancing of life. Through balancing of life, we can reach to samadhi, sthit prajna. So the power of spiritual practices. What are the hallmarks of a spiritual person? Lord Krishna has already said that. But basically, one becomes impartial. It sees Brahman in everyone. Vasudev Kutumbakam feeling comes. Everybody is my family. Also becomes very calm. Viddat Atmas, Yat Sukham, Samdarshaning. Anandam, always in Anandam. And is not a bhogi, where he is just enjoying his sensual pleasures, but he is true yogi. And then Kam, Krodho, Bhavam, Vegam, Ya Yukta Sa Sukhi Nara. Then he becomes the Sukhi Nara. He lives in love, peace, Anandam, becomes the enlightened person. So the ultimate power of spiritual practices is one becomes sthit pragya, one becomes true karma yogi, if that's what his personality is, like Arjuna's, because we have a different aptitude. He becomes muni, he becomes sannyasi, he becomes bhakta, devotee. by practicing bhakti yoga, practicing from his heart, from his soul, and truly becomes an enlightened person. So, dukheshnu vignamana sukheshu vigatispra. Vitarag bhai krodha sthit dhir muni uchchate. Ultimately, he not only experienced these spiritual practices, but in the worldly Maya, he lives very peacefully because he's beyond his calm, krodh, lo, moh, ankar, 5+2 enemies, free from desires, anger, greed, attachments, ego, fear, jealousy, sorrows, loss and gain. And in worldly sense, we can say that he becomes more open, flexible to communicate with others. He's not more judgmental. He is more cooperating with others. He's a well-wisher of all. His relationship improves. His health improves. And he leads from ignorance to ultimate wisdom. So he is free from all. And here are some examples of spiritual people which we could relate to it. We all have more in our life, but these are the one always stand in front of me. And first one is my father, who was always, I saw him as a spiritual person. And Satya Babaji, who just came in my dreams, which I did not know him, but he came in my dreams, and that's where I explored who is this person. And finally, and I learned a lot about him and got connected with him. Swami Vivekanand ji, Swami Chidanand ji. But here I put the doctors and the daily karma yogi. They are the true karma yogi. And anybody who is doing the karma yoga in their own profession, whether they are engineers, they are housewives, they are social workers, all they are spiritual people. We can relate to this like Amma ji and Guru Nanak ji, Gandhi ji, Martin Luther King, etc. But here Vivekanand ji says, everyone has a potential to be divine. We are divine, not a potential. I want to go one more step further. We are divine, as I said. We are experiencing the divinity at this moment. We are the spiritual being experiencing, going through the human experiences, but we are spiritual beings. So we have to ask the question ourselves, where am I? Because in the modern era of science and technology, the mind always asks for reasoning and does analysis. And Gita offers all. That's why Gita comes in the picture. And Swami Prabhupada ji always said that unless we are awakened and question the suffering in our life, we cannot become perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of equanimity, inquiry is awakened, we become equanimous. Therefore, those who question why they are suffering, or where they come from, or where they will go after death, are the proper students for the understanding of Gita. So self-inquiry is the basic foundation for spiritual growth and development. So many questions have come to me that I talk about this spiritual planner every week, this 30 days planner. Why? And that answers to the one of the question which came. How could I stay on my regular path, on my spiritual practices every day? Because many times when the difficulties, the challenges come in our life, we get sidetracked. We forget about our spiritual practices due to the limitations of time. The mind is filled with worry and fear, and we forget about God or my spiritual practices. And that's why this planner, daily spiritual planner, to develop equanimity, samta, is so important, because samta, with equanimity, we can experience that I am just one of the player in this whole God's Leela, his God's play. So I have to play my role the best. And all these practices are important. But why should we do first thing in the morning, Om mantra, or before starting our day, or chapter 12, or read one message, or remind ourselves, or even get up in the morning with thanking God, that thank you, God, for waking me up. Thank you that I could breathe, my heart is pumping properly. I could walk, I could see, I could hear. Just with that, by doing it, our days, the focus of the day changes. Trend of the day will change. And if we continue to practice for 30 days, that becomes our habit. And that's where it's a nitya yuktasya yogina, mindfulness. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita over and over, mindfulness, whether you are in duality, whether you have a Lord Krishna, or you have any other Rama, whatever, whoever, Guru Nanak, whoever it is, live in that consciousness, or you are in the non-duality path, on the mantras, Om mantra, whatever it is. But when we perform daily spiritual practices, gradually we will attain peace and Anandam within, and also experience in our external life. And so, taking care of our body is so important. This is also a part of the spiritual practice. Only exercise is not enough. We have to do the exercise with the combining with our pranayam, which connects us, the true yoga, the union, experiencing my true soul, my pranic energy, which flows in the body. And we have to do the prayers. Whatever time we have, maybe we don't have 1 hour, maybe we have 5 minutes, whatever, even we don't have any time, just sit down and watch your breath. Once you start watching your breath, your mind will be aligned. If it is disturbed with many other activities or concerns, when you start breathing, focusing on breath, all of a sudden, the mind centralizes it. And our job is to centralize ourselves, ground ourselves. And the spiritual practices help us to ground ourselves. And then during the day, as I said, there are many, many issues we have faced. And sometimes they change, or sometimes it's the same one. I want to practice, like I want to practice more and more surrender. So not surrendering and not feeling the stressful, because I feel I'm the doer, but I'm not the doer. To practice that, practice the surrendering, I have to take that every day to remind myself, as it says, Aadat buri sudhar lo ho gaya bhajan. That bad habit of mine where I think I am the doer. I forget that the divine Shakti is the doer. The supreme power is the doer. I have to practice on that, replacing that habit with surrender. And that's where it says surrender with faith. When I surrender with faith, then the ultimately freedom comes from the daily worries and the birth and death. and the experiencing ultimate who I am. So in summary, spiritual practices, self-transformation leads to healthy body, peaceful life, peaceful mind, and experiencing my true nature. I am Satya Ananda. And we have to continue this practice in the evening by forgiving others, forgiving myself for making some mistakes. Maybe I have sidetracked. Maybe I have done something which I'm not supposed to be doing. Then ask for forgiveness and the courage to do it next day continuously, and then finally surrender. Sarv dharman paritajyam. Sarv dharman paritajyam. Sarv dharman paritajyam. Sarv dharman paritajyam. So my homework, ask yourself, self-inquiry. Do I have a supreme goal of self-realization in my life? Do I study Bhagavad Gita or other scriptures like Ramayana, Guru Granth Sahib, etc.? Do I do my spiritual practices? Yoga, pranayama, meditation, selfless service, help others. Do I surrender? So we have to live in the awareness, ask these questions, and then continue to practice and take the sankalpa that I practice spirituality with my body and soul to experience happy, healthy, and peaceful life. So that's my sankalpa. Sankalpa bhavan. Not just the worldly things, but higher sankalpa. And by little, shanai shanai uppar meil, buddhya gati grahita, atma sansa mana tatvana, kinchit api chintayit. So one gradually attains peace and tranquility of mind, little by little, abandoning all selfish desires. So little by little, so it's not a instant. When we have to have a patience and live in the supreme consciousness until we reach the goal, self-realization. So always remember, it is not an activity, it is a lifestyle. So spiritual practices should become our lifestyle. Every activity must be taking us close to supreme power. Every practice should be a spiritual practice. So thank you very much for attending and doing that. I do regular spiritual practices, sadhana, and get the freedom from pains and miseries to ultimate freedom. And stay happy, healthy, and peaceful. So thank you very much.